Kia ora everyone, welcome back to our next edition of Econ Talks. Gareth, we've published our latest forecasts on where we think the economy is going to go, our February 2023 assessment. We've had a bit of a reflection, if you will, over the summer, and I feel like the very poor summer that we've experienced so far sort of reflects our more grim economic outlook. How bad is it going to get?
Yeah, we're looking at the economy already being in a recession. I think last year we talked about a shadow recession, but now we're actually talking about a real recession, and potentially lasting from the final quarter of 2022 through into early 2024. It's not necessarily a particularly deep recession that we're forecasting, but quite prolonged. And the factors feeding into that are really twofold. Firstly, we know that household spending is being squeezed already, and for some people, particularly as mortgage rates have risen and will continue to rise through the next few months as well, placing more pressure on those household budgets as fixed mortgages come up for renewal. The thing is with the mortgage rates, though, is that at 6% or 7%, most people aren't too perturbed by that. They've seen it before. But if you bought into the housing market in 2020 or 2021 and took on a whole load of debt expecting mortgage rates to stay at 3%, say, then you are really feeling the pinch at the moment. We're seeing businesses as well just be a little more cautious around hiring. There's not great evidence that the labour market has really turned yet, but we are expecting to see more of that through the middle and latter part of this year. As that comes through, we think the sort of pain of higher unemployment and more importantly, the uncertainty associated with rising unemployment and lower job security as well, that will start to feed through into more caution across a broader cross spectrum of household spending as well. And so those factors coming together, as I said, a recession potentially lasting right through 2023. Growth might turn positive in one quarter in there, but overall we're expecting it to be generally negative through that time. And then even through out until maybe mid-2025, growth will continue to be inhibited by that weaker labour market, the unemployment rate pushing above 5%, and just continuing to weigh on people's minds, even if the Reserve Bank does start to cut interest rates by or from the middle of next year. That labour market picture we think will dominate. So a pretty tough and difficult couple of years for the economy to grow from here.
What's the context like, though, here? Because like you say, okay, it might be a more prolonged economic hit, but it's not quite as deep. It's not going to be as bad as or as deep as the hit was from the global financial crisis. Realistically, given just how strong the economy has been in recent times, this was always going to happen, right? There was always an expectation that to cool the jets, anything from where you were at peak economic activity in recent times, pulling back would require some sort of recession or reset. I mean, it's worthwhile noting that the economic activity at the end of the third quarter in 2022, the end of September, was stronger than at any point that the Reserve Bank thought it could be up until mid-2025. So the starting point is a lot stronger. You've got inflation that, yes, it might well have plateaued, but it hasn't really started to slow back at all. The labour market's still tight. It's broadly speaking in limbo, so you haven't seen the full effects of those jobs, possible job cuts coming through. When it comes to households, I mean, what is the expectation here in terms of what do you do now that you've got a well-signalled recession to prepare? How quickly do you need to adjust your spending? And what does that mean, I guess, across the wider macro economy? Is it just the young people who bought in the last few years and who might be first out the jobs door that have to worry, or is there something broader going through?
Look, I do think it does end up being broader. As I said, at the moment, the effects are concentrated in a relatively small pool of people. But, if your mortgage rates are lifting from 3% to somewhere near 7%, that means your repayments are going to be substantially higher going forward. You may want to, if you do have a mortgage, you'll be wanting to prepare ahead of time and make sure that as those fixed rates roll off, you are able to cope with them. You might be wanting to put some caution around your spending because you're not sure what your job security might be like in 12 or 18 months time as well. So, putting a bit aside for that rainy day, so to speak, could well be a prudent move as well. So I think it is going to be, felt across the board as the sort of weaker economic conditions become more pervasive. You're right. It's not at this stage, doesn't look like it's going to be on a global financial crisis level, but there are risks internationally as well when you look at the global economy. Yes, I know this week people have been talking about how it looks like a soft landing for the US and Europe might avoid recession and all that sort of thing. But there are still risks there, in terms of that export side of things and how that flows through into New Zealand's economic sort of well-being and growth performance as well. So for all households, I think it's a case of cutting back, or sort of paring back some of that spending that we've had over the last 2 or 3 years when conditions have been ultra good, and just taking more caution about it, given the way conditions are unfolding.
Absolutely. And look, I mean, 2023, like we were saying last year, is, even more so a year of consolidation. We saw households at the end of last year, into 2022, pulling back their spending a touch anyway, both, responding to those higher interest rates, responding to high inflation already. And of course, that's expected to continue through this year, given the higher interest rates that are coming through. We'll continue to assess how households respond to those rising interest rates and how this recession might progress, and importantly, how long and deep it might be felt, on one of our future editions of Econ Talks.